Hello. Oh, yeah, yeah, there it goes. There it goes. That's my camera light. It lags. Light goes on, shows as recording. It lags a little bit. Or my brain is lagging. Kind of goes to show you how much of a lightweight I am. I've only had 2 beers. So I had that pint plus like a point fluid ounce that was a jar 100 ale. And I also did a preliminary of this. So this is like the first review where I'm actually doing a third beer. I am. And then dinner. Obviously, dinner and some nice hot green tea with mint. But I'm going to clear my system and I will review this with the clarity, with the absolute precision that defines my reviewing style, friends. What more can I say? Did I mention that those 2 beers I had on an empty stomach? Darn, doesn't it show? And wow, I just realized I'm wearing like my Jack Kerouac T-shirt today. Kind of apropos, don't you think? And this, folks, is why I need a dry January. Hey, hey, hey! Before anyone makes fun of me for being lightweight, let me put it this way: it takes me 3 beers to be good for the rest of the night. How many beers does it take you to be good for the entire night? Mind you, these are light-bodied beers. And what, you may ask, is the beer that I will be reviewing for the second beer review of tonight, which I preliminarily tested and found some deep, profound differences. Well, for one, the can has changed. Come on, pull back, you stupid. I, my camera, I always say it's like a 10-year-old camera, but I actually went and looked it up. And back here, come on, focus. I went and looked it up, and I first got this camera. Oh, come on, you. There we go. There we go. Was it so hard? So yes, my camera I first got in 2009. This is a 13-year-old camera. My camera has officially entered adolescence. That is how old my camera is, friends. And it wasn't like an expensive camera to begin with, let me tell you. This was like, what can I afford on my administrative assistant salary? Now it's like, what can I afford on a security guard salary? And like, I'm looking forward to, what can I afford on the janitor salary? Anyways, I'm digressing. So, this is Hana Hefe, which is not really a true Hefeweizen. As you can see, American wheat ale with strawberry and orange. So this has changed, obviously. Like I mentioned, the ABV was higher than when I originally reviewed this in 2016. So yes, I first reviewed this in 2016. It was 6.5 ABV then. It's 5.8 now. So they've slightly tweaked the recipe, and so that the ABV is lower, but it doesn't look like they've changed all that much else. They made it more clear that this is an American wheat ale and not a true Hefeweizen, made in Germany using that particular Hefeweizen wheat yeast in Germany. But the adjuncts have remained the same: strawberry and orange. Yes, folks, I've only had 2 beers. This is what 2 beers on an empty stomach does. 2 drinks on an empty stomach does to me. I am a lightweight. How many times can I say it? So we break out our rarely seen glass, the Hefeweizen glass. And you know how rarely it's used? When I pulled this out, it had, I believe, either lizard or cockroach poop on the bottom of it. I had to go and get a bottle brush and scrub it out. I have finally invested in the bottle brush after realizing this is the size of my hand. This is the size of the bottom of the bottle. Ain't no way getting my fingers all the way to the bottom of this, folks. So let's pour out now, shall we? We're going to be giving this a vigorous pour. This is a Hefeweizen. And that's what you do with Hefeweizens. You give them vigorous pours. Why do you give them vigorous pours? So you can create this beautiful white, well, white to off-white fluffy head that Hefeweizens are known for. Very cloudy light yellow, very pale yellow, but very cloudy all the same. There we go. Now, the first thing that usually goes when I'm drinking is my sense of smell. Sense of smell is the most important part of tasting, and it is also, unfortunately, the first to go, which is very rarely why you don't see me doing third drink reviews, where reviewing things where things are my third drink, whether or not it's full stomach or not. My nose goes. But I can still kind of get this one. So yeah, got a lot of that wheaten funk there that I think was lacking in the last time I reviewed this. But at the same time, one of the sort of estery notes that I kind of associate with Hefeweizens. This is definitely an American style wheat ale. You can definitely smell the strawberry adjunct. You don't really get the orange there, but you get that it's wheat. There's the malting, somewhat crackery to bready, but definitely that strawberry adjunct takes the prime place there in the nose. Hopping almost not very perceptible. Not very perceptible at all. Head also sort of dissipated very quickly, but that almost also might be because, like I said, I had to give this glass a fairly rigorous scrubbing with a bottle brush. Onto the palate now, shall we? It seems to be much drier. The previous, so I actually watched the previous review because, like I said, they tweaked the recipe. I talked about it being sweet. This one is much more dry. Got that funky wheat, very doughy. So while the strawberry is still there in the nose, is not quite as apparent on the palate. So it's not dry by any means. It's still there's still perceptible malt sweetness there, but what they have done, I believe, is actually probably lowered the amount of adjuncts in wheat and allowed it to further ferment to create a sort of dryness to it. And it also emphasizes the wheatiness of the malts rather than sweetness. Again, on the palate, not many of the flavors I associate with a Hefeweizen. Like I say, those estery notes that is somewhat evocative of banana bread. In the long finish, there's the orange actually shows up more than it did in the original. Um, so less of the strawberry, more of the orange. There's almost a slightly tart edge to it, ever so slight. Mostly appears in the finish there. I don't know if the IBUs have changed. There's not a great amount of hop bitterness in this at all, but it definitely seems more perceptible. It's 15 IBU on here, if you haven't noticed when I put the bottle up there, or can up there. But it feels more perceptible. It feels like more of the bittering hops remain there in the mid to finish and into the long finish. Of course, it doesn't quite clear the palate, but it definitely is there, much more apparent. If I could say what it is about this ale, it is, well, this wheat beer, because it's not really an ale, is that it is not trying so hard to be a Hefeweizen and failing at it, but it is doing quite well at being an American wheat ale, which of course is drier, which is more defined by the wheat malt characteristics rather than the effects of the yeast on the wheat malt, creating those really nice aromatics. It's relying more on the aromatics of the adjuncts. If they didn't have that strawberry and orange there, it wouldn't be quite as interesting on the nose. If you kind of notice, I haven't mentioned the top note. Top note is really the hardest thing to get, honestly, which is why I don't really do all that many super inebriated reviews. When I go to like Lanikai Brewing or another bar and do reviews there, I'm always doing like 3 ounce pours for the 4 reviews that I do there. Because drinking, one of the first things that happens is this kind of inflames and stuffs up a little bit. I'm going to try right now. Basically, just wheat and a slight note of hoppiness there. It does seem, like I said, the 15 IBU means that it's not very well hopped. That doesn't definitely seems more apparent. There's less residual sugars, and I can't really do much. The top note is essentially the same as the nose at this point. And I guess I should explain what a top note is. The top note is the sense of smell. Excuse me. The the sense of smell that you're getting not from sense things going up your nostrils, but from the air going through the back of the throat. And it is slightly different than smelling something directly through the nostrils. How it's different, well, I can't quite quantify or qualify it for you. It's just different. You can go and try it for yourself. See if you can kind of go and smell a difference in between something that you sniff like this from your nose and then something that you kind of just let the air in, efforts in your mouth. You just kind of let the air go through from the back of your throat up into your nasal cavities and sinuses. It's definitely different. Unfortunately, I have a tendency to stuff up, and this is not just beer and alcoholic beverages, basically anything. If I consume anything, then for some reason it just runs most of the time. And that's how it's been for all my life. So I definitely try to do this fresh. You know, um, if I do it after multiple drinks, if I do it after a large meal, that's why I drink so often. That's why I was mentioning I'm on an empty stomach. Well, because eating triggers it as much as drinking does. Speaking of eating, I really, really need to go and make some patella stew right now. I've got some patella stew frozen. I'm going to heat it up. That's going to be dinner for tonight. What can I say about this beer that I first reviewed about 6 years ago? Well, I believe that the slight tweaks that they made to the recipe have improved it somewhat. You know, it's not trying to be a Hefeweizen and failing at it. It's being a perfectly serviceable American wheat ale. And I think that's an improvement. So, folks, that is your beer review for this, what is now the evening, since it is now 6 o'clock. And as you can see, I take it very seriously. These reviews I take dead serious. Even that's why I'm doing full disclosure and saying I am definitely not 100%. I'm about 66% in my tasting ability right now. But I think I really got the gist of this one, as it were. So, that has been your beer review for this evening. I'm going to make dinner and watch YouTube. Cheers.